$1 million twist could change Chad's life forever. On Days of Our Lives in the charming yet ever unpredictable town of Salem, no moment ever unfolds without a few unexpected twists and turns. And now, in one of the most intriguing and buzzworthy developments in recent Days of Our Lives episodes, a simple bachelor auction may prove to be the catalyst for a life-altering romance. All eyes are on Chad DiMera and Kat Green as their paths teeter on the edge of something deeper, more complicated, and undeniably passionate, and at the center of it all stands a woman who's no stranger to stirring things up, Maggie Kyriakis. It began as an innocent event, a charity bachelor auction designed to raise funds and bring the community together. But in true Salem fashion, nothing ever goes quite as expected. Just as Chad found himself in a potentially awkward predicament, about to be auctioned off to an unknown woman he clearly wasn't comfortable with, Maggie made a bold, dramatic move. With the confidence of someone who knows how to command a room and protect those she cares about, she placed a jaw-dropping $1 million bid, effectively rescuing Chad from an unpleasant evening and shocking the entire audience in the process. But Maggie, always composed yet cunning beneath the surface, didn't spend $1 million without expecting something in return. Her intentions weren't rooted in romance, no, not with Chad. What she truly sought was an evening of fun, perhaps a bit of flair, and, more importantly, to steer the evening toward a result that may hold far more emotional weight than anyone anticipated. For those familiar with Maggie's nurturing side and sharp intuition, it's easy to believe that she has her own matchmaking plans in motion. And her target? A potential connection that could blossom between Chad and Kat Green. From awkward beginnings to a subtle push toward romance, Chad has had a rough go in recent months. Emotionally wounded, still trying to find steady ground after personal losses and heartbreaks, he's been cautious about jumping into anything new. Enter Kat, beautiful, mysterious, emotionally complex, someone who's just as guarded as Chad but equally in search of something meaningful. Their chemistry is undeniable, yet hesitation continues to cloud every interaction. They orbit one another, but something keeps pulling them apart just as they begin to draw closer. Maggie, wise and well acquainted with the signs of a budding romance being stifled by fear, may very well decide that enough is enough. With a sharp mind and an eye for emotional nuance, she might see that her $1 million date is less about enjoying an evening out and more about facilitating the connection that Chad seems so afraid to pursue. What if the real purpose behind her grand gesture wasn't about the event itself, but about nudging Chad in the right direction? A clever change of plans. As spoilers begin to circulate, there's growing speculation that Maggie won't be accompanying Chad to a lavish dinner or elegant soiree. Instead, she may bow out gracefully early in the evening, having made her point and enjoyed just enough of the spotlight to satisfy her role in the auction. But before leaving, she may leave Chad with some heartfelt advice, the kind that only a woman with years of love, loss, and wisdom can offer. She may remind him that time is fleeting and chances for real connection are rare. Then, with a knowing glance, she could suggest he spend the rest of his evening with someone who truly has the potential to bring light back into his life, Kat. It wouldn't be the first time Maggie played matchmaker, but it might be her most subtle, and most effective, effort yet. A spark rekindled, or finally lit? Should Maggie's plan unfold as imagined, Chad might find himself unexpectedly standing across from Kat once again, only this time without the pressure of obligation or expectation. With the noise of the auction behind them and the pretense removed, they may finally have the space to be honest, not just with each other, but with themselves. What would begin as a simple conversation, perhaps over a quiet meal or a shared laugh about the absurdity of the auction, might evolve into a more intimate connection. Old walls could begin to crumble, replaced by vulnerability, curiosity, and the thrilling possibility of something real. Chad might finally see in Kat someone who understands the same kind of loss he's endured. And Kat, in turn, might recognize in Chad the kind of steady presence she's longed for. Their individual hesitations could finally be softened by the realization that they no longer have to face the world alone. But is it too good to be true? Of course, in Days of Our Lives, no budding romance ever moves forward without complications. As viewers know all too well, history, secrets, and unresolved pain have a way of resurfacing at the most inconvenient times. For Chad and Kat, the question remains, can they overcome the emotional scars of their pasts, or will their fears prove too strong? And what happens if outside forces, old flames, jealous rivals, or even unexpected betrayals, rise up to derail what they've only just begun to build? For now, though, fans can savor the hope, the flicker of possibility, that two people, both quietly yearning for something more, might finally take the leap toward each other. Whether it's over a candlelit dinner, a late-night walk through Horton Square, or an impulsive kiss under the stars, the moment is ripe for transformation. Conclusion. A date that could change everything. What began as a $1 million rescue could soon become one of the most memorable turning points in Chad DiMera's life. Thanks to Maggie's intuitive meddling and perhaps a bit of divine timing, Chad and Kat's story may be ready to unfold, not with a dramatic bang, but with the quiet grace of two wounded souls learning to trust again. As the days ahead unravel, viewers can expect emotional revelations, hesitant steps toward healing, and maybe, just maybe, the start of a love story worth every penny of that $1 million bid. Stay tuned, because in Salem, love never comes easy, but when it does, it's always worth watching. A $1 million memory. Secrets, misunderstandings, and emotional echoes shake Salem. Thursday, April 24, 2025, ushered in a whirlwind of emotion, memory, and miscommunication in Salem, a day that started with celebration and ended with heavy hearts and lingering tension. As the annual Bachelor auction fundraiser drew to a dramatic close, it became clear that no amount of money, no matter how extravagant, could shield the people of Salem from the ghosts of their past or the complexity of their present. The day began with Chad standing alongside Kat, exchanging smiles and warm words as they reflected on the surprising success of the fundraiser. Though their initial meeting had been surrounded by uncertainty, the event had become a turning point, not only for the cause but for their budding connection. There was a sense of camaraderie between them, a tentative bond forming amidst the laughter and noise of the fairgrounds. Their moment was soon interrupted by JJ, who approached with a haunted look in his eyes. Chad, ever the supportive friend, asked if JJ had resolved the latest in his long string of conflicts with Gabby. The answer was sobering: no, things were far from resolved. In fact, JJ admitted something that shocked even Chad. He had accused Gabby of attempted murder. The revelation hung in the air like a dense fog, impossible to ignore. JJ's voice trembled with regret, his usually confident demeanor crumbling under the weight of his own actions. The accusation had clearly not been made lightly, but it was one that had spiraled out of control and now left a gaping rift between them. Chad, who knew better than most the consequences of rushing to judgment, remained calm, but the look in his eyes said it all: disappointment, confusion, and perhaps a flicker of understanding. Before the conversation could deepen, Chad's son, Thomas, bounded into the scene with youthful energy, eager to drag his father away to a nearby game. JJ prepared to leave, his shoulders slumped in emotional defeat, but Kat wasn't about to let him go without offering a few heartfelt words. She stepped forward, her tone firm but kind, and reminded JJ that redemption is possible. That forgiveness is not a fantasy, even for someone who's made a mistake as grave as his. She pointed out that Chad had forgiven her, and maybe, just maybe, Gabby could find it in her heart to do the same. Her words were sincere, almost poetic, but she was gone before JJ could respond. Left alone in the aftershock of the conversation, JJ turned to Kayla inside the bar, asking if he could have a private word with EJ. His face held the kind of desperate hope that only someone seeking clarity, or penance, could wear. Meanwhile, outside at the bustling fair, Kat had rejoined Chad and young Thomas just as Maggie entered the scene. Always the gracious matriarch, Maggie greeted everyone warmly and then whisked Thomas away to register for his game, giving Chad and Kat a moment to catch their breath. Chad, trying to maintain a sense of calm amidst the swirling emotions of the day, mentioned to Maggie that Stephanie was spending time with Charlotte, his daughter. Away from the noise of the fair. It was a small gesture, meant to ease Charlotte's ever-present anxiety about being separated from her mother. Stephanie's heart had always been in the right place, but no one could replace the deep emotional scars left by Abigail's death. Maggie, who had known Abigail well, gently began to say as much, that Charlotte would always know Chad could never replace her mother, when Kat returned and overheard the comment. There was a flicker of pain in Kat's eyes. Though unintentional, Maggie's words hit a nerve. They were a reminder that no matter how close she might feel to Chad, she was still walking in the shadow of someone beloved and gone too soon. Inside the venue, Kayla offered a brief apology to the crowd. The auction had taken longer than anticipated, and Chad would now be the final bachelor of the evening. The rest of the bids would take place online. Before anyone else could react, Maggie, with a gleam in her eye and her paddle in hand, raised the stakes with a jaw-dropping bid of $1 million. The crowd gasped. There was no competition. No one even tried to match it. Chad, caught somewhere between flattered and stunned, could hardly believe it. As Maggie crossed the room to embrace him, he chuckled and thanked her repeatedly, clearly relieved to have escaped the random matchmaking chaos of the evening. But Maggie wasn't letting him off that easy. "Who says you get away with anything?" she teased. "I'm looking forward to eating and drinking." Her tone was playful, but the meaning beneath it was clear. She was going to make the most of her $1 million moment. The mood, however, shifted again soon after, when Chad and Kat made their way toward Rachel, only for the little girl to mistake Kat for someone else. Someone who had been gone for a long time. Rachel's eyes lit up as she shouted, "Abigail." The name hit like a thunderclap. Kristen, ever the manipulator but still a mother trying to manage her daughter's fragile emotional world, quickly intervened. She knelt down and tried to explain to Rachel that the woman she was looking at was not, in fact, Abigail. Kat heard every word. The innocence of the child's confusion might have been understandable, but the sting of being compared to a ghost, especially one who still haunted Chad's heart, was too much. Her face went pale, then red with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. Chad noticed too, but instead of comforting her, he turned and walked away, leaving Kat standing there, hurt and alone, as the noise of the fair seemed to fade around her. It was a subtle rejection, but one that cut deep. At the same time, elsewhere in Salem, E.J., long plagued by fragments of memory and uncertainty, began to recover something critical from the depths of his mind. The specifics were unclear, but whatever it was, it mattered. His expression darkened with realization as he pieced together a memory that could change everything. This memory, once buried, now surged to the surface with a clarity that promised confrontation, conflict, and possibly retribution in the days to come. As the sun began to set over Salem, what should have been a triumphant day, one marked by community spirit and celebration, instead left behind a tangled web of emotional fallout. Friendships were tested. Past wounds were reopened. And the future? That remained uncertain. But in Salem, nothing ever stays buried for long. Not guilt. Not love. And certainly not secrets.